Look, you already know this feeling. You wake up, do the responsible thing, move through your day like you're checking boxes, and somewhere in the background there's this quiet ache. Not dramatic, not even loud, just a persistent sense of, is this really it? And what makes it weird is that nothing looks wrong on paper. You're functioning, you're showing up, you're doing what people said you're supposed to do. Yet part of you still feels like you're living for Friday, living for vacation, living for later. Like life is a room you keep trying to leave instead of a place you actually want to inhabit. And here's where things get sneaky. You were trained out of your natural way of being. Kids don't need permission to be curious. They don't need a 5-year plan to explore something. They ask 1,000 questions because the world feels like a giant mystery box and they want to open everything. Then school happens. Culture happens. Someone starts rewarding right answers more than brave questions. Suddenly, curiosity becomes risky. Wonder becomes distracting. Play becomes something you earn only after you've suffered enough. And before you know it, you're living like work is your real life. And joy is a side hobby you do if you have enough energy left. A lot of people don't realize how deep that programming goes. Because once you believe there's one correct path, you start measuring your whole life by it. You go to the next step because that's what comes next. You climb the ladder because ladders are what you climb. Then one day, usually in a quiet moment, not some dramatic breakdown, you catch yourself daydreaming about not your dream job, but just not doing any of it. Like the fantasy isn't even success. The fantasy is escape. And let's be honest, it's not a money problem. It's a problem of meaning. Asking, what would you do if you didn't have to work, can be a trap because anyone can do nothing. A deeper question is the one your soul keeps whispering. How do you build a life you don't need to run from? Here's the uncomfortable truth, and also the hopeful one. A huge chunk of your life is spent working. Years of hours, thousands of days of energy. If that time feels dead, you feel dead. If that time feels alive, you start to come alive. And the game of life isn't really about winning some external scoreboard. It's about learning how to bring your childlike aliveness back into the center of your days. Not by quitting everything overnight and going off grid, relax, but by returning to a mindset you once had naturally, curiosity, play, and a kind of boldness that doesn't need permission. You don't need to become someone new. You need to remember someone old. Now here's where the game gets real, because life doesn't just happen to you like random weather. You interpret it. You package it into meaning. You take what happens and you turn it into a story about who you are, what the world is, and what's possible for you. That story becomes your lens, and once you're wearing it, everything you see starts matching it. Your past gets edited to prove the story. Your present gets filtered through it. Your future gets predicted by it. It's like walking around with a script in your pocket and then acting surprised when you keep reading the same lines. Most people are stuck in one of two story modes. Maybe you've felt both. One version goes like this. Life keeps doing this to me. People keep failing me. Things never work out. I always get the short end. It's a slow tragedy, not because pain happens to everyone, but because the hero in that story never learns, never adapts, never takes the pen back. So the same lesson shows up wearing different clothes. Different job, same pattern. Different relationship, same ending. Different dream, same self-doubt. And after a while it starts to feel like fate, when really it's a loop. Then there's another version. A harder one at first, but a cleaner one long term. In this story, something goes wrong, sometimes badly wrong, and it still hurts, still stings, still knocks the air out of you. But instead of turning it into a verdict on your future, you turn it into a turning point. You go, okay, this isn't what I wanted, but what is this trying to teach me? What does this force me to become? Suddenly you're not a passive character getting dragged through chapters. You become an agent, not controlling everything, let's not pretend, but steering your ship. One wave can knock you sideways. It doesn't have to decide where you end up. A lot of life comes down to what psychologists call your locus of control. But let's keep it simple. Do you live as if you're at the mercy of your past, or do you live as if you still have a say? Because you do, even in loss, even in confusion, even in the moments where you're sitting there like, I have no idea what I'm doing. You still get to choose your next step, and when you choose your next step with intention, you change the story mid-sentence. That's powerful. That's playing the game instead of being played by it. Here's a little parable-style way to see it. Imagine two people fall into the same deep hole, same darkness, same cold walls, same panic. One person sits down and starts naming everything unfair about the hole. Valid, yes, but nothing changes. The other person, still scared, still frustrated, touches the wall and finds a small ledge. Not the whole escape route, just a ledge, so they climb to that. Then they find another, then another, and one day, their hands hit sunlight. The hole didn't give them a gift for suffering. Their willingness to move gave them a way out. The next step is almost always small. Small steps don't feel heroic, but they're the only ones that actually get you somewhere. Now you're ready for the practical part, because play the game of life isn't some motivational poster idea. It's a strategy, a way to live where your days become a training ground for mastery instead of a treadmill you hate. And mastery isn't about becoming famous, by the way. Mastery is what happens when you spend enough time doing something that genuinely matters to you, long enough that your skill starts to match your taste. It's when you stop feeling like you're faking it and you start feeling at home in what you do. That feeling is rare because most people never stay with anything long enough, not because they're lazy, but because they're scared of being bad at something. A fixed mindset says, if I'm not good at it immediately, it's not for me. A growth mindset says, if I'm not good at it yet, I'm right on schedule. And yes, those are just words, until you feel the difference in your body. With a fixed mindset, failure feels like a verdict. With a growth mindset, failure feels like feedback. One shuts you down, the other keeps you moving. Think about how children learn to walk. Nobody sees a toddler fall and goes, well, guess walking isn't your talent. They fall 100 times. They laugh. They get back up. They're not ashamed. Somewhere along the way, you got taught to be embarrassed by learning. So here's a way back into play without blowing up your whole life. Start making small bets, tiny experiments, low risk, high upside moves. Not move to a new country and reinvent yourself. More like spend 10% of your time trying something you're genuinely curious about. A class, a skill, a project, a conversation, a hobby that could become more. You decide what you can afford to lose, time, money, pride, and you keep the loss affordable. Because when failure is affordable, courage becomes possible. And when courage becomes possible, your life starts widening again. Now here's the part most people miss. You don't have to pick one single interest and cling to it like it's your only chance. Sometimes life doesn't want you to narrow down. Sometimes life wants you to combine. You might be the kind of person who loves movement and storytelling, or design and psychology, or technology and music, or teaching and business. Those combinations are where your uniqueness lives. You're not competing with anyone when you build from your own blend, because nobody else has your exact curiosities. Somewhere in history, the polymath spirit was normal, learning widely, exploring deeply, staying curious. Modern life tries to make you a specialist before you even know who you are. That's backwards. You're allowed to explore first. And here's where it all comes together. Work and play, story and identity, growth and mastery. When your work feels like play, you get better fast, not because you're forcing discipline like a prison guard, but because you're drawn to it like a magnet. Flow happens. Hours pass like minutes. You start seeing patterns other people miss because you're actually present with what you're doing. People call it talent, but it's often just attention, sustained attention fueled by real curiosity. There's an old idea that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the willingness to move while fear is still in the room. That's what play really is. Play is risk with a smile. Play is life saying, come closer, and you saying, okay, let's see. In conclusion, stop living like your real life starts later. Stop treating joy like something you earn after years of grinding. Ask the better question, how can I build a life I don't need to escape from? Then answer it with action, not daydreams. Make one small bet this week. Try the thing you keep circling. Let yourself be bad at it without making it mean you are bad. If you feel behind, you're not broken. You're just in the messy part of growth. An acorn doesn't panic because it isn't an oak yet. So get curious again. Take risks you can afford. Rewrite your story from the inside. The game of life doesn't reward perfection. It rewards participation.